Which is better, the Samsung Galaxy A20s or the Samsung Galaxy A20? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, coming at you with my comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A20s and Samsung Galaxy A20. Now I know that many of you have been very excited for me to make this video. I'm really curious to see how these two devices compare side by side here, and they definitely have a decent amount of things in common, but also have a decent amount of things that are different. Now you can buy both of these devices on Amazon, and the international versions of these two phones, which I've linked in the video description, do work with all GSM carriers in the US. Also, these two devices are being offered for roughly the same price tag at $179, factory unlocked. Now the Galaxy A20 is available as well at a variety of different carriers in the US. So if you do want to save a lot of money and possibly even get this phone for free, then you might want to contact your carrier to see what deals they're offering. But if you do want to go the factory unlocked route, which certainly is not a bad idea at all, then I will be leaving links in the video description. Now looking at these two devices head on here, they both have a very similar design, but the Galaxy A20s actually has a slightly larger display at 6.5 inches compared to the Galaxy A20, which has a 6.4 inch display. The biggest difference though has to do with the display technology. So with the Galaxy A20s, we're getting an IPS LCD display, which definitely does look decent, but with the Galaxy A20, we're getting an AMOLED display. So definitely much better than the LCD display with the Galaxy A20s. Both phones do give you a 19.5:9 aspect ratio, which is great, and you are getting a 720p resolution with both devices. Now I've mentioned this in many previous videos about the Galaxy A20, and that is that I don't really mind that it is 720p. That's not a big deal to me. And since this is AMOLED, that really is a very major selling point because you're getting much better colors. It's a lot brighter. The viewing angles are much better too. And overall, it's just a much better viewing experience compared to LCD. Now, thankfully though, the LCD display on the A20s actually looks very decent. It's definitely not as good as the display on the Galaxy A20, no doubt about that, but it still does look good, and if you were to put this phone up against other devices that it competes against, it certainly is very competitive. But despite both of these devices being 720p with such large display sizes, both displays look super crisp, and you're gonna have no problem viewing content on these phones. Now, of course, it would have been great if these were 1080p, but they're not, and that is the reality. They're 720p, so I can certainly live with that, but I would never complain about them being 1080p, that's for sure. Now up top here, both devices do feature teardrop notches, and in these notches, we have 8 megapixel front-facing cameras. These phones both feature 32 gigabytes of internal storage with SD card expansion. There is no wireless charging with either of these two devices, but they do both feature fingerprint sensors on the back, and they feature face unlock. But let's do a demonstration of the fingerprint sensors right now. So starting with the A20s, that was really quick. And now with the A20, and that was really quick as well. So nice, accurate fingerprint sensors on both devices. Also, the materials in the back of the two devices are both reflective plastic materials, but you can see on the Galaxy A20s, it's kind of more of this wavy design. And with the Galaxy A20, it's more of a traditional design. Also, on the back side of these two devices, we have different camera modules. So with the Galaxy A20s, we have a 13 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. And the Galaxy A20 has a dual camera setup with a 13 megapixel main camera and a 5 megapixel secondary camera that actually doubles as the wide angle camera and a depth sensing camera. So technically, you're getting the same exact camera features with the Galaxy A20 that you're getting with the A20s, except the A20s does have a dedicated camera for the ultra wide angle camera. So not only is it a dedicated camera, but it is 8 megapixels versus the ultra wide angle camera on the A20 being just 5 megapixels. And from my usage of both of these devices, I certainly have noticed that the A20s does take better looking photos and video compared to the A20. It's not dramatic, but there certainly is a benefit with having this triple camera setup versus just the dual cameras with the A20, even though technically on paper, you're getting the same exact features with the two phones. But you are getting portrait mode at the front and rear cameras on both devices, which is definitely great. And it is a real native portrait mode because of the dedicated depth sensing camera. Now both devices feature 3 gigabytes of RAM, but the biggest difference is the processor. So the Galaxy A20s features the Qualcomm Snapdragon 450, and the Galaxy A20 features the Samsung Exynos 7884 processor. Now for some carrier versions of this phone, like the Metro by T-Mobile version of the device, it's the Exynos 7904, but the international version of the device, which I'll be linking in the video description, has the 7884. But either way, those two processors are pretty similar. Now I did run Antutu benchmark testing on both devices here to see what the scores are for them, and I think this will definitely reveal to you kind of the difference between these two processors. So with the Galaxy A20s, I got an overall score of 87016, and I got a score with the Galaxy A20 of 124183. So a significantly higher score with the Galaxy A20, that's for sure. And you can see, especially for the CPU score, it's a lot higher with the Galaxy A20. And same thing with the GPU score as well. So I'm not extremely surprised by this. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 450. It's not the worst processor out there, but it's certainly not a new processor, and I don't think it really offers that many advantages. It's actually the same processor that comes with the LG Stylo 5, which I actually did a comparison video on recently with this device and that device. And I know that Qualcomm does have a great reputation, which is mostly due to their flagship processors, but there's really nothing desirable about the Snapdragon 450. In fact, MediaTek has a lot of processors that are better than this processor, such as the MediaTek Helio P60 and P70. Now later on in the video, we will be doing a speed test comparison between these two phones, which will really reveal which device is the fastest with day-to-day usage, so definitely keep watching for that segment. But if I had to pick one processor over the other, I would certainly go with the Exynos 7884. Now video recording with these two phones maxes out at 1080p at 30 frames per second, which is great. Samsung always does a great job with video quality, so I'm a big fan of that. These two devices both feature 4000 mAh internal batteries, so they're beefy batteries. You are going to get better battery life with AMOLED technology generally, so since the Galaxy A20 is AMOLED, you will most likely be getting better battery life with this phone compared to the Galaxy A20s. Now both devices do run Android 9 Pie, and actually the Galaxy A20 is supposed to be updated to Android 10 in May, and I know that's a while from now, but at least it is getting an update eventually. I have not heard anything yet about the Galaxy A20s getting an update to Android 10, but I'd imagine that if they're updating all of the other Galaxy A series phones to Android 10 at some point or another, the Galaxy A20s will eventually get Android 10 as well. But that's not really a huge deal for me personally. I don't mind Android 9 Pie, especially since both phones do run Samsung Skin here, so the experience from one version of Android to another really isn't that significant. The biggest differences come with updates that Samsung does to their software. Now I do want to give you a quick demonstration here of the wide-angle camera. So I just want to pull that up on both devices here to give you an idea of which one is wider, or if they're the same. So here's a side-by-side right here, and it looks like definitely a lot clearer of a picture with the Galaxy A20s, at least through the viewfinder, and that is consistent with all of the samples that I've done out and about. But it looks like the Galaxy A20 is a little bit wider. But if I had to choose one over the other, I would go with the wide-angle camera with the Galaxy A20s. And that certainly makes sense because with this phone it is 8 megapixels versus 5 megapixels with the Galaxy A20. Now taking a look at the left side of these two devices, there are some pretty big differences. So with both phones you do have the SIM card slot and SD card slot, but with the Galaxy A20s, the volume button is actually on the left side, and then there's nothing else on the left side of the Galaxy A20. Then on the right side of these two phones, on the Galaxy A20s, we just have the power button, and on the Galaxy A20, we have the power button and volume button. Then on the top of the two phones, they both have the noise-canceling microphone, so pretty much the same setup. And then on the bottom of the two phones, they both have the speaker, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the 3.5mm headphone jack. But the configuration is a little bit different, so it's not exactly identical. And then on the back side of the two phones, of course, we have a triple camera setup with the Galaxy A20s versus a dual camera setup with the Galaxy A20. We have the flash and with the fingerprint sensor. So a pretty similar design here. I definitely do prefer, though, this material on the back side of the A20s. I really like that wavy look. It looks really awesome and makes the phone look very premium. But the phones are pretty much the same exact size. The A20s is slightly larger, but there's definitely no way that you'd be able to use an A20 case with the A20s since some of the buttons are moved around and the camera modules are different, and the A20s is a little bit larger. Now for the next segment of this video, we are going to be doing a test here to see which device has the louder speakers of the two. So I do have a decibel meter here, and give this video a thumbs up for me going through the time of doing this test because I think it's pretty unique and I don't see this typically on YouTube. Another thing to keep in mind here too are the viewing angles. So you can see at this angle, the Galaxy A20 is a lot brighter compared to the A20s. That's one of the many advantages with AMOLED display technology. So I have the same video pulled up on both devices. I'm going to play them both to the first 7 seconds. And then with this meter here, I can tap on this button and it will lock in the highest decibel reading during that period of time. So we're going to start with the A20s. Is the Alcatel Insight a good phone to buy? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Okay, and I got 109.5 with the Galaxy A20s. Is the Alcatel Insight a good phone to buy? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. And I got a maximum of 99.5 with the Galaxy A20. And even without this meter, it's very clear that the Galaxy A20s does have the better and louder speakers of these two devices. So definitely a very eye-opening and ear-opening thing there. What's cool though is that both phones do feature good speakers, so don't be concerned at all about the Galaxy A20. You're still going to get good speakers with this device, but there's no doubt that the A20s does have the better speakers of the two. Let's now do a speed test comparison between these two devices. We're going to start by pulling up the camera applications. So 1, 2, 3, go. And it looks like the Galaxy A20 was a little bit quicker at pulling up the camera. Let's now go to Google Chrome. 1, 2, 3, go. And the Galaxy A20 was quicker at pulling up Google Chrome. Let's now go to yahoo.com. 1, 2, 3, go. Looks about the same here, maybe a little bit quicker on the A20. Another thing I want to mention too is that with the A20s, you are limited to just 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. There is no 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi setting, so that's a bit surprising and unfortunate. And the A20 does have 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Let's go to Engadget. 1, 2, 3, go. And it looks like for this test here, the A20s is a little bit quicker. Scrolling is smooth on both phones. Let's go to this link. And you can see here in this side-by-side how much better the colors and brightness are with the Galaxy A20 here on the right. Let's go to this article. 1, 2, 3, go. And it is quicker on the Galaxy A20. So I'm really glad I was able to get these two phones to make this comparison video. And it seems like you're really only getting two advantages with the Galaxy A20s. The first advantage is this cool looking kind of wavy design on the back. And the second advantage are the cameras. So you are getting camera improvements with the main camera and the wide angle camera as well compared to the Galaxy A20. But the Galaxy A20 still does take really nice looking photos and video. So if taking photos and videos is your #1 priority, then you might want to go with the A20s. And if everything else is a lot more important, such as having a good looking display, then I would go with the A20. So I think for most people, the A20 is still the better option of the two. Definitely a bit disappointing to see that this does have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 450. I would have loved to see a 600 series processor from Qualcomm in this device because I think that's really what it deserves. Because you saw the benchmark score, the Galaxy A20s is dramatically behind with the score that I was able to get with the Galaxy A20. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know in the comment section below which device you prefer and which one you would buy. And let me know if you already own one of these two phones. But this is Kevin here. This is the Samsung Galaxy A20s, and this is the Samsung Galaxy A20, and I will see you in the next video.